everybody. This is lovely, isn't it? My name is Jen, and before we get started, I do have a confession to make, because I'm not from the University of Southampton. I know. It's going to get worse. I'm going to edge over here, because not only am I not from the University of Southampton, I'm from the University of Portsmouth. Okay, no one bought any rotten vegetables, that's good. Excellent. But I'm an astronomer or an astrophysicist if I don't want to talk to you on a plane. To give you my correct title, I am the Sepner Ogden Outreach Officer for the Institute of Cosmology and Gravitation at the University of Portsmouth, thank you, the one person. I have been known to get a round of applause for that when introducing myself at a conference. So I think I win the longest job title of the evening. One thing I really like doing, because as my friends will attest, I am a massive nerd, one thing I like to do is think about when stars aren't stars. And so when I first started thinking about this, I thought I'd follow that time-honoured academic tradition, that rigorous research method that lecturers and teachers worldwide dream that their students will follow. I went to Wikipedia. And so Wikipedia told me that STAR can be an acronym for a number of things. You've got to be a little bit careful. You don't want to mix up the Society of Ticket Agents and Retailers with the Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries. Because that can make some awkward conversations. But as I said, I'm an astronomer, so I like thinking about when stars in the sky aren't stars. And the obvious ones are planets. So if you've ever been out on a clear night, looked up at the sky and seen what you thought were really bright stars, they're probably actually planets, maybe Jupiter and Venus. Go out into the countryside, far away from the bright lights of the city, somewhere really dark. Look up again, stare for a long time. Out of the corner of your eye, you may just get a glimpse of Uranus. That never gets old. But there are other things in the sky that are disguising themselves as stars, and hopefully there's one in this picture. So this is a picture from the Digitized Sky Survey. It's got lots of white dots on it that look like stars, and most of them are, but the one in the middle isn't. This is an object called 3C273, great name, and astronomers realized it was not a star by looking at the different kinds of light that it emits, like gamma rays and radio waves. So when we point our radio telescopes up at this part of the sky, this is what we see. So this was taken using a network of radio telescopes spread around England called Merlin. And what you see is a really bright bit up at the top. That's the center. So that's where that star was in that previous picture. And shooting out from the center is what scientists like to call the death ray. Yeah, when I say scientists, I mean me. Most people call this a jet. And so astronomers point radio telescopes all around the sky. They see lots of these death ray objects, but when you go back to the visible pictures using those optical telescopes like the Hubble Space Telescope, sometimes you see stars and sometimes you see galaxies. So astronomers had to figure out what on earth these were. And these are objects that we now call active galaxies. And I know what you're all thinking when I say that. I do not mean bars of chocolate, dressed in lycra, working up a sweat on the treadmill. Take a moment to admire my paint skills. Actually, I made this using a program called GIMP, but asking you to admire my GIMP skills is an entirely different set for a completely different audience. What we mean by active galaxies are basically galaxies that are emitting much more light than your typical boring galaxy like the Milky Way. And in these galaxies, we see this extra energy coming from their centers. So we call them active galactic nuclei, or AGN, because energy-centered galaxy would just sound stupid. And astronomers really like their acronyms. ECGs are already taken up by medicine. Real doctors. Astronomers are pretty bad at naming things. We tend to call it as we see it. So there's some really large telescopes on top of a mountain in Chile. They're called the Very Large Telescope, which doesn't even make sense because there's 4 of them. They've just blown the top of a mountain in Chile to build a bigger telescope, which they're going to call the Extremely Large Telescope. I really wish I was making this up. And you find these awful names all over astronomy. The American version of the Merlin network of telescopes is called the Very Large Array, or the VLA. And it recently underwent a massive upgrade, so the people in charge of it decided it did need a new name. See, I think that they were just sick of their Dutch colleagues calling it VLA, which Wikipedia reliably informs me is Dutch for a type of custard. They actually asked members of the public to suggest new names. So my friend put forward the TFKAT-VLA, the telescope formerly known as the VLA. But my submission was much simpler because astronomers like these really obvious names, so I thought they could just call it the completely upgraded new telescope. Thank you. On the other hand, astronomers sometimes come up with really convoluted names to make the acronym fit, and I've come up with some of my favourites. I have to open my notebook up now because they're too hard to remember. So here's some that I found. GLIMPS is the Galactic Legacy Infrared Mid-Plane Survey Extraordinaire. So I see what they've done there. Like, it's good up to a point, but you can't just tack the word extraordinaire onto the end. Okay, next one is Heritage, which is the Herschel Inventory of the Agents of Galaxy Evolution, which, apart from sounding like a really rubbish Marvel TV show, you can't just take 3 letters from the first word to make an acronym. That doesn't work. But this is my all-time favourite. This is Lucifer. Right, Lucifer, which is the Large Binocular Telescope Near-Infrared Utility with Camera and Integral Field Unit for Extragalactic Research, which I make to be Lubtenu Fukuafur, not Lucifer. And if you want more of those, you can always go to the DOOFUS website, which stands for Dumb or Overly Forced Astronomical Acronym Site. But I'm almost out of time, and I haven't told you what these active galaxies actually are. So astronomers did some research, and they realised it's all to do with the supermassive black hole in the centre. So every galaxy has a supermassive black hole. In most of them, like the Milky Way, it's just sitting there. It's kind of not doing anything. It's quite boring. But in active galaxies, it's a monster. And we're talking Cookie Monster kind of monster. There's all this dust and gas swirling around the black hole, and it's eating everything up. If you're a PhD student, you will know what I mean by that. And so as all this stuff swirls around the black hole, it rubs together and it heats up through friction, and somehow these jets form. So we know that these jets or death rays are made up of charged particles like electrons spiraling in a magnetic field, but we don't know how they form. We don't know how they shut off. We don't know why some galaxies have them. We don't know how it affects star formation. We don't know how, there's lots of stuff we don't know, which is good, because otherwise I'd be out of a job. And just to finish off, I want to leave you with my favourite ever radio picture of an AGN. Now, when this was released, it was described as astronomers discover spectacular structure in distant galaxy. And as I zoom in, hopefully you'll agree with me that is pretty spectacular. Thank you very much.